The Vordel Manager is a rich web interface which is used to manage Vordel API Server instances. It manages a whole topology of API Server instances. You can see here we have a group called Dev and a group called Staging. There's one API Server in the Dev group and there's two in the Staging group. By clicking on the various different API Server instances, we see the traffic which is flowing through them. There's traffic going through Staging 1 but not through Staging 2. If we click up on the Dev server, we see the traffic going through that, and at Dev we see all the group traffic. This is also where we can add new groups. We simply add new groups within the web interface in the Vordel Manager, and here's also where we can add new servers. The servers are also added simply through the web interface by clicking on an existing group. This is also where we can see the traffic that's hitting the APIs, which are under the control of the API server. Here we see the Health Check API, Netflix API, and others. We also see clients and the remote hosts which the API server is connecting to. All of this information is updated in real time, and it's all viewable here in the dashboard. This is also the place where you can go and see monitoring. See monitoring of the API traffic. You can see it across different APIs, across different API servers as well. Here we see different API services, Health Check API. We can click on a particular API server, and here we see the traffic going for it as well. Here's also where we can see a particular API and see the peaks of traffic for it. Here's the client view. We have an Android app and an iPhone app which are hitting APIs, and over time we can see the different traffic. Clicking on each we can differentiate the traffic also. We can also see the different hosts that the API server is connecting to. We see bytes in, bytes out, and the response time which the server is retrieving from the back-end servers. We can also go and check on the information based on a server basis and also based on a group basis. The API Service Manager is part of the Vordel Manager. The API Service Manager is a very simple web-based interface for registering APIs. Here I'm registering a Yahoo Weather JSON API. I click in, register the API, and then I'm walked through a very simple wizard. I can choose to expose the API with a different path, a virtual path, a Weather API, and then that maps to the backend JSON API for Yahoo. At each step, request, routing, and response, I can choose different policy packages which are going to be applied. These policy packages are created in the Policy Server tool, which we'll also see. So here I go in and I'm choosing to cache the response, for example. I'm then going to choose the monitoring options for my API, and then once I'm all set with all the options, this is where I can also deploy the API. So I'm deploying the virtualized API here against the API servers of my choice. All of this is web-based, very simple interface. This is also where I can see the traffic. The traffic tab allows me to see traffic based, for example, on the paths. So here I'm seeing traffic to the Salesforce API. Let's have a look at the Health Check API. You can see the traffic to that. The traffic tab allows you to see exactly what happens to the messages that occur through the API server, through the series of filters. Also under the Login tab we can view the trace. And then we're back at the dashboard where we see the overall message processing.